So the first question is, what are your thoughts? This is for everyone. What are your thoughts on how the urban music scene has developed over the last 20 years?
I'm going to show my age because I was back there raving in the 90s. So I think for me, the scene it's evolved very well into a really exciting space, right? So obviously with digitalization and people being able to produce their own stuff at home and have that home studio, that has created like an emancipation for people. Like, people can make music and they can they can distribute the music. So we're not hanging on for the labels anymore. The genres go from strength to strength. Popular culture is black culture. Do you know what I mean? Like, all our genres become commercialized, become mainstream, go international. So I think, things have been really good. And now we've got things like the Twins at Def Jam. We've got more with that shift and that argument about urban music and black music. We've had a shift. We've got more black music executives. Still don't have enough, but we've got a lot more. And obviously still don't have enough black women. But again, we've got more. So I'm seeing, I work on the masters, and we've got people like Donnelly doing PhDs in grime and stuff. So for me, it's an exciting, positive time.
Nice.
I don't think I have that much to add to that. I totally agree. I think that in the last 20 years, I think the fact that the kind of democratization of music, in the sense that, like you said, that people don't have to go through record labels, is such a kind of liberating way in which that we can access new artists who don't have to be filtered out through the record labels. But I think that the ingenuity of that, the kind of getting on there, going through Spotify, they're going through social media, YouTube, I feel it's just like a continued spirit of black British music. Because when I think about like reggae, that was the same thing. They would like create these pop-up record labels and distribute their own music. And so, maybe that was, in the sense, still kind of catering to a kind of popular demographic, but the fact that there's still that desire and that creativity to always push through against the odds, I think is just what I see in British music right now, and it amazes me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say, like, if you go back 20 years, we're talking 2003, aren't we? So music, since 2003, black music has obviously gone from strength to strength, as Toppy said. And I feel like, the other day I went to a Burna Boy concert at West Ham Stadium. And I remember growing up in the 90s thinking, we never saw black artists filling out a stadium. We never saw, I remember seeing Bobby Brown as a kid at Wembley Arena. That's not the stadium. I saw Jay-Z, Wembley Arena. I saw Jodeci at Wembley Arena. So for me to be at Burna Boy concert, West Ham Stadium, Olympic Stadium in East London, and there was 60-odd thousand people, packed, tells you where we've come. So I did my first gig in 1995 in a place called Borderline in Tottenham Court Road. Probably doesn't exist anymore. It's like a little rock venue. And today on my way down there, I was thinking, I might do a project called From Borderline to Glastonbury. So I started out in Borderline, and I was one of the first people to play Glastonbury as a hip hop artist. So looking back that far tells me we've come a long way. But what we shouldn't forget is that black music was doing things 20 years ago too. Because I think a lot of people tend to forget, like, Miss Dynamite was around. I was around. Roots Maneuver was around. Estelle was around. Before me, there was Omar. There was Soul to Soul. There was Loose Ends. There was great artists. Do you know what I mean? So I think we kind of have this perception, like, you read certain articles and think, well, black music, it's coming up now because they weren't doing nothing back in the days. It was almost like Stone Ages. It wasn't. It's just as time goes by, the world changes, technology changes, more opportunities become available, and I feel like we found a way. And that's the beauty of what we're doing right now, and I'm glad I was part of the process as far as kicking down doors and fighting, doing all the grunt work for the youngers to do it now. And so, yeah, big up to all the new artists and big up to all the pioneers too.
Yeah, I echo that as well, Twang. Definitely. I'm going to show my age as well. I remember one of the first times like I really got touched by music. I was at my dad's house in Brixton, and Tim Westwood used to. Yeah. I was waiting for the boo. You don't have a boo. What the hell?
Nah,
you
don't feel no way to boo. You know, you got a boo.
Oh gosh! But he used to have a sick radio show, and he played Jay-Z Big Pimpin'. And I swear down, that tune touched me. When I say touched me, the next morning I went out into the estate and I was like, did you not hear that on the radio yesterday? Now the reason why I'm bringing up that tune is because I remember when the video came out for that tune, I'm not sure if you guys remember the video, but he was on a yacht in Puerto Rico, flexing, Damon Dash with a champagne. And now that's standard in hip hop. I'm not sure if you've seen Dave and Central C's last video. That is standard. Them men are flying in Porsches and Ferraris in their video. So the paychecks are bigger in music. There's money, and the money is being shared. Don't get me wrong, we still got a long way to go. We still need more brothers on the wall, more sisters in the room. But at the same time, it's come a long way. And Twang and his generation, they opened up the doors. They set the precedent for that. So I always pay homage to my elders and to the people around me and to the people that come before me. And I think that's important. It's an important thing to remember in music. It's to always give back and show respect. The Americans do it. Over here, we kind of lack in that department. But yeah, I guess music's come a long way, and there is pros and cons. But I'm gonna have a positive outlook and say it's done well. It's come far and good.
Yes, perspective. So, okay, let me just check the temperature. Is this a home ground? You know, like in football, you have home and away. Is this home? Yeah. Okay, it's a safe space. So, if you were to say there were cons, what are the cons currently in the music industry?
I'll start. I think in relation to this country, I'll specifically talk about Britain. I think Britain pushes a lot of mediocrity. And I'm not sure who has a playlist full of British music, but it's very difficult. Don't get me wrong, there's gems out there, there's Blackmale Beats out there, I'm out here. But there's other crazy talent in this country. Like, we've all got our little friends and family members and people that we know that create music, but industry standard level, it's a lot of mediocrity, and I'm sick and tired of that. There's not much.
Talk the thing, Shem.
There's not much diversity. The same players, the same usual suspects get the opportunities, and I think that has a domino effect. You know, the labels go for hype instead of substance, go for following. Yeah, you know, it's the same old trick, and I think that's a con. That's something that I experience, and I'm fed up with. Yeah, and there's many other cons, but that's the con that I'd like to put out there.
I think the con for me would probably be the over-exploitation. The way they discard music as well, like to the point where you feel like you don't appreciate what's really being created. So where you're getting a particular sound and everyone thinks, yeah, that sound's working. And it's always been that way in music business anyway. But it means that you then miss your Blackmale Beats. You then miss your dozers. You miss your sticks. You miss your dices. You know what I'm saying? So I feel that's the con. But with that, we should have learned from it, which would be dig deeper, dig beyond beneath the surface, and you know, you'll find that gem. And I think, as Shem said earlier, we're going to keep on a positive. And I think there's more pros and cons now, to be fair. I think if the only con that really kind of sticks out at me is probably, and I hate to say it, but it's the reinforcing certain stereotypes about black people, which is kind of negative, but that seems to be the one they seem to want to be pushing. And it's always been that case too, but that is still a con, and we're still fighting it.
I'd probably say that the con would be that the industry, it's about translation. And so when you go through record labels, it's what they want to translate, it's what they want to take from your music and distribute out to the mainstream. And that doesn't necessarily mean the same message that you want to present. And I think that, you know, when you're on a record label, you don't have the freedom to say what you want to say. And so I'd probably say that would be my biggest kind of con still, is that, you know, if you're with a record label, they're going to censor what you have to say, they're going to censor your message, they're going to censor how you say it, and they're going to tell you what they want to put out and what they don't want to put out. And so that's still a con.
Major one.
Okay, yeah, I definitely echo everything that's been said, agree with everything that everyone said. So I think for me, there are two things. The first thing is one of the reasons why I lecture is that, you know, there's not enough people teaching the youngers how the business works. We're still seeing that cycle over and over again of people getting in the business, getting ripped off, you know, not getting paid, exploitative contracts and all that. So I think the exploitation is a big con, if you know, because a lot of us won't have family that's worked in the music industry or won't have lawyers or entertainment lawyers and stuff like that. So that's a big con for me. And then, yeah, just, you know, I mean, I talk to students that have jobs, and there's just still not enough of us. You know, they're still quite isolated in the space, and that's the reason for some of the cons that we're talking about. You know, they don't get to make those decisions about, you know, different artists because there's an agenda where they're working and they have to be promoting this person and that person. So, yeah.
Fantastic points. Thank you. What, can we give a round of applause for those points? It's just, it's so important. Your answers are just so important because I know as an artist, I'll go to certain events or whatnot, and you just get the pretty. You don't get the real. So it's very important that you did give that breakdown. I want to ask, okay, so bearing the pros and the cons in mind, where do each of you see the scene being in 10 years' time?
Well, I'm sure everyone's heard of AI. Wait, tips. I don't know. There's definitely going to be an infiltration of technology, and the reason why I use the word infiltration is because there's a lot of cheat codes now. Technology can do your work for you. So I guess I'm a Renaissance man, so originality will definitely be a luxury, but you know, programs, plugins, you know, AI rappers, the metaverse. I feel like that's where the world's going, and that's where music will definitely go. But you know, like good music is classic and timeless. This is why people still collect vinyl, CD, tape, and so it'll always be around. You know, your vinyl, which I'll need a copy of, which Banksy did. I need one of those. That's always going to be around. It's always going to be around. So I'm looking forward to the future because I'm in it. Yeah, I'm a part of it, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
I think 10 years' time, like you said, I was actually going to say about the vinyl coming back because I'm a big believer in everything goes around in cycles. So that cycle will come back around again in 10 years' time, just in a different permutation or different mutation, if you like. But I don't know. I think we're just gonna. I like that phrase, going from strength to strength, because I think black music has made a lot of strides over the last 2 decades, if you like, over the last 3 decades. So the next decade only promises to be more amazing for us. Whether it's going to be AI, and we'll find a way to actually Africanize the AI. African intelligence.
What's that? That's a project. That sounds like a project.
Do you know what I mean?
So like an album.
I don't know. I just feel like we will find a way to kind of make that, to give it its own swoosh and swag. So that's where I see it in 10 years' time.
The AI point is actually kind of interesting because I know that Little Sims just dropped a video that's supposed to have like AI.
Oh, I ain't seen that.
Video. So it's interesting where that's going.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think that the future is already in the present. It's somewhere. It's just a thread that's going to take off. So I don't know. It's somewhere in this room. It's somewhere outside. We've already seen it. We've probably already passed it and heard it. It's gonna just take over our future. So. That's me.
Yeah, the future. I suppose In terms of like AI, I think I like the possibilities of it. I think what we'll do as an ingenious culture is we'll find really clever ways to use it. Might not necessarily be using it to make music. Like I've been reading about people that use it to route tours through where they think they're most popular, like, you know, and so I think there'll be clever formulations of that coming out. But real music, it's never going to be able to. I can spot an AISA, right? So we'll say that. Yeah, right. Allegedly, soon I won't be able to. So that's exciting. Metaverse, maybe. I think, given all we've been through the last few years, I think everyone really wants to just be outside and mingling. You know, so the metaverse is having a little struggle moment, isn't it? And VR, even though it is exciting stuff, it's that idea of having the goggles on and like, you know, mugging around. So they haven't quite taken off. But the really exciting thing will come from whatever the new genre will be. There's one every 10 to 15 years we get a new genre. The new kids come up. They're like, no, that's not our thing. We need our own thing. So I'm waiting for what's, you know, whatever the new drill is, it's bubbling out there. It just doesn't have a name, and you know the real youngers have got it. Like, you know, the 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds, they're cooking up stuff. So I'm excited for that.
Okay, so on the topic of genres, this is a question specifically for both of you, Julia and Cheraine. Jungle, garage, grime, and UK drill all have something in common. Would you consider them as niche genres or international?
Say they're both.
Yeah, I suppose they start as niche, don't they? They've all started as niche genres, new upcoming genres. But you know, when I was at Beyonce the other day, she had Night Archives busting out jungle on the Thursday for an hour.
Oh wow!
So you know, and that for me was like, wow. You know, we've got like, jungle's my specialism. So we've got that new generation that have picked it up and kind of started running off of it, which is very exciting. But it is international. But actually, maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe it's niche international, because I know that there's, you know, jungle in America, New Zealand, Australia, you know, that scene all the way around the world, but it's not, maybe it's not open and known the way, like, perhaps drill, and you can speak more to garage, can't you? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that you made a good point in terms of, like, the kind of jungle revival, because that's also garage, right? Like, I see all these kind of garage brunches and all these kind of things, these connections. So I feel like maybe that's a kind of millennial revival thing, but the whole kind of bringing something that was a niche and then bringing it back into something that's now mainstream and has a new meaning, but, you know, maybe it's nostalgia or whatever it is, but it kind of has a new meaning in the present. And the fact that it moves out. I actually saw something recently, particularly about garage, about Dark Child, and he was on, like, floating around social media, where he was saying that in the 90s, when he did the Spice Girls song in the, was it 90s or early 2000s?
90s.
Yeah, he came over and he was like a garage club, and he was just like inspired by the music. So, you know, I think that it's international, it's niche, it can be both those things to whoever it needs to be for and to. So, yeah.
And just to add to that, I think one thing about UK you can say is, like, because we're such a melting pot of cultures and ethnicities, we always have our own kind of twist on it anyway. So if you look at, even though garage did start as a niche and jungle and drum and bass, and what's the one that started in Croydon called again? Dubstep. Dubstep, and what's the other one you said? Drill, right? Drill. So basically what happens is you find, like, it might have been done somewhere else in another country, but when it comes over here, we just put our own little flavour on it and our twist on it, and then before you know it, it's almost like, bruh, coming like we started.
Lovers Rock?
Yeah, Lovers Rock's another one. There you go. So, you know, that drill sound apparently started in Chicago. Yeah. However, the most style of drill that they make now all over the world is UK drill. So, same with the garage thing. Like, Chicago House was garage. Do you get me? And then we put our own little twist on it, and now you got Who Told You Bad Man Can't Dance and all that. You get me? So, it's like, we just put our own little flavour on it. So, yeah, it starts out as niche, but then internationally, we kind of take over.
Did you want to say something to that, Shem?
No, just they smashed it. That's
yeah, really, really good points. And I feel like what the UK contribute to the world is very much underrated. There's a lot of American artists that come here and then they get inspired and extract, and then we don't get to hear the story of them getting inspired. I did want to mention real quick, Public Enemy. You lot know who Public Enemy is, right? Yeah. Their HQ is here, London. Okay. It was started here, so that gives you an indication of how intricately connected London and the UK is with hip hop and black music in general. Blak Twang, is radio still relevant when trying to establish an artist?
I suppose statistics will tell you no. Is radio still important? Radio is important to some extent. However, radio now watches TikTok. So radio will kind of see what's popping on TikTok and what the kids are listening to and what dance they're doing and what songs popping and whatever, and that's how it goes. So now artists pretty much bypass radio, go to TikTok, or go to Insta, or go to whatever music outlet there is, social media wise that is, and do it that way. And then radio picks on after that. So the answer to your question is not when you're trying to establish yourself anymore, because we found another way to do it. But at the same time, it's important because that kind of radio keeps you in the listener's sort of consciousness. So if you're in your car, you're not really trying to log on to whatever. Do you get me? So I think radio definitely plays a part, but not as important as it was back when I was putting out my music. When I was putting out my music, if I didn't have no radio, ain't nobody gonna hear me but my brethrens on my block in Deptford. So yeah, not anymore, but it's still important.
Good answer. Shem, what should young artists do to ensure they aren't taken advantage of?
Team. I think build a team. I would advise any young artist to try and find a team. If they can't find a team, just inquire. You need a lawyer, a music lawyer. You need a manager. Management is imperative. I've never had a manager. I've always been self-managed, always. But I know the levels when you have a manager. It's levels. I've had help, I've had support, I've had a PA, I've had everything else, but I've never had a prominent manager. At the moment, I've got a project manager who's helping me on Black Atmosphere, and it helps. I'm not an admin guy. I'm creative. My world is in the studio. So, team, an accountability partner, someone that holds you accountable to your deadlines, to your projects, someone that can give you an honest opinion, someone that can give you harsh truths. You need a good 5 people who work in other industries. They say that you are your team. So yeah, a team, I would say.
Great points. Okay, so this is to Blak Twang, Julia, and Cheraine. Do you think the pioneers of black British music are properly recognised? If not, why?
No. Okay, so
where do we start?
Where do we begin? Okay, yeah, I'm trying to do the short, non-academic version. Basically, it's about who documents, who archives, who publishes, who chooses to write about who, right? And I guess because of our humble beginnings, right, we didn't start off at, it's great, we've got Gala now, we've got videographers, journalists, we've got everything, but back then we didn't. And so, your Misha Parises and your Janet Kays and stuff like that, they weren't really no one was right. People are starting to write about them now, retrospectively, but there wasn't anyone really writing about them, and books and articles and front covers. We don't get the front covers, other people get the front covers, all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a big thing for me in terms of representation, because we know how important it is, and that's why it's quite exciting that we have independent media brands now that are doing things, right? But we didn't have that back then. So I think there was a lot of stories that didn't get told.
No, I second that. I mean, that's I do the research, because there's so many untold stories. I'm from the Caribbean, from a Jamaican background, and music was just it's like water. Like, Dad was a producer, my mom worked at a record label. Like, it was just there, and that you don't hear those stories. You just don't know those people. You don't know what people have been going through. What, I mean, particularly for me as well. I'm from Tottenham, and so my family were involved in a lot of community things there. And there's just no, if I didn't kind of like ask questions or maybe have a look in the album, you may never know or uncover some of the rich history that we have. And so no, we don't honor it. But that said, I did also think that, and particularly like listening to Shem and listening to the sampling, I do think that's an important part of our history, about carrying on heritage. So there is that duality. No, we don't know the history that much, and it's not recognized. But I think within the musical practice, there is that kind of homage, that is a place for that homage to be paid.
Yeah, and I agree with that too, actually. What I was going to say was that one of the reasons I think the actual pioneers or the trailblazers, whatever you want to call them, don't get the recognition, mainly is because black history, or history when it involves black people, African Caribbean people, gets discarded easily. Like, our history is not documented to its full authenticity. Do you know what I mean? And it feels like we're just kind of it's like a fad. Everything we do is like a trend. So, you get people in positions where they could. I actually had this saying. Instead of trying to chase the youths, try and raise the youths. So you get people in positions where they could be actually, disseminating that information to young people that are listening, who might not have been here 20 years ago, and you can't blame them for not knowing who so-and-so was 20 years ago. However, you're in a position where you can say, that didn't start with so-and-so. This started back whenever that happened. Do you know what I mean? So I hear a lot of songs on the radio now, and I'm speaking to my nephews and my nieces who are like 20-something years old, and I'm saying, they're like, oh, yeah, that new tune. I'm like, yeah, let me play you the original. Let me play you the original. Oh, who's that? Who's that? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's really important that when you're in that position, if you're knowledgeable, because the worst thing you can do is knowing but not showing. You get me? So if you have knowledge of something and you don't share it, that's worse than you actually hurting somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? Because you know better. So, if you knew better, you do better, kind of thing. So I think information-wise, it's really important that we have it. I think through sampling, like you said, we're going to get that knowledge, because, one thing that will happen is curiosity comes in. You're like, oh, let me hear that tune. Or you might just hear something else and say, oh, that sounds like, a lot of people didn't realize Kanye West's Welcome to the Good Life sampled Michael Jackson. Till you kind of catch that riff. Yeah, PYT, you see what I mean? So I think it's important that we keep kind of spreading the word. DJs are on radio. If you got a show, if you got a blog, talk about the elders that went before us, your Soul to Souls, like we mentioned earlier. The Loose Ends, the Karen Wheelers, the Misha Paris's, the Janet Kays, there's loads of artists that have come and gone. And I think it's very important that we document it, we cherish it, we carry on that tradition, because if we're people that have no roots and we don't know our past, we're not going to know where we're going to. You know what I mean? We're going to be like weed that you could just blow in the wind, because it's not deep-rooted. And our history is very deep-rooted, no matter what they try to tell you. So that's what I feel.
We're going to open up questions. If anybody in the audience wants to ask any questions, now is your time. I do have one question. Yeah, so you're going to have to project.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Everyone's shy. You got a question?
Yeah, it's kind of like a statement still in regards to how well we're doing in the last 20 years. I mean, if you consider Motown and stuff like that, it could be argued that sometimes you was doing better. It depends on how you're looking at stuff.
We're doing better now or doing better then?
Back.
Okay.
Sometimes, like, well, it depends. Relatively
speaking.
Yeah, the hits or the amount of artists that was there. Think of
level of music, maybe.
Yeah, even that. Yeah.
Level of musicianship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
I think the paychecks are bigger. That's what I said. I mean, you know, it's a tricky one because a lot of genres are from other genres. So hip hop is a mix of jazz, soul, reggae, rock, breakbeat, disco. It's all these different, the scratching. So it's like, because these are sub-genres, the root, jazz, is always going to be a classical genre. Jazz musicianship is a high level of musicianship. So music-wise, you can't really talk, like, as I said, the Herbie Hancock example, like, he's a pioneer. He's an Afrofuturist. He was in Miles Davis' band. You know what I'm saying? Miles Davis alone, like Quincy Jones, the level is very, very high. It's very hard to top that level of music. So,
do you know, I suppose the argument could be, depending on your age as well, like not even age really, but depending on what your perspective is on music, the argument could be maybe the quality of music back then was a lot better than where we are now, which makes us think we were in a better place back then, because a lot of classics. However, financial freedom and financially, we're not nowhere near where. Do you know what I mean? It's like you look. Let's use football as an analogy, right? If you think, I don't know, Pele, back when he was playing, and a lot of us didn't see him, but Pele, when he was playing, was probably better than all of these players that are getting 1 billion. Do you understand? So the quality of football back then was probably better. However, the money. Yeah. So it's a bit of a dichotomy where it's like, which one you got to find that balance, haven't you? So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, when I think about it, and when we think about it, we don't have like a big black-owned label, do we? I mean, outside of like your Jet Stars and stuff like that, they're not really black British labels, but there isn't like a black British major, you know, and maybe
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Was BBE? BBE was British, wasn't it? BBE?
Yeah, but it's not major, is it?
No, it's independent.
Well, not even like a super indie, but one that gets big. Because
the thing is, they've all got major distribution that isn't black, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
So your Jet Stars probably were the ones actually that were distributing their own records properly without the interference of your EMIs or your PS or Sony or whoever. Because eventually, what they're going to do is, if your thing's bussing, then they're just going to, I'll take that. Big bank, take little bank type thing.
Because the majors all have the independent distribution arms as well now, don't they? So when anyone's doing well, they just snap them up.
Yeah, and the way they try to disguise it now as well is they make it feel like, they make you think like, oh yeah, he's independent, but behind the scenes, you know what I want, you know, like there's big. Anyway.
Big players.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Oh, no, it's okay.
Anyone else have a question?
I don't have a question, but I wanted to say, I'll say, first of all, R.I.P. Ty, legend.
Yep.
Rest in power, for real.
Yeah, legend, one of the pioneers of this thing also. Everyone made some good points about documenting and how we're doing documenting. I think the first question you asked, or one of the first, about the future, it's our responsibility now to document stuff the right way, so we can. That's how we shape the future. That's what the next 10 years will look like based on what we do now. You understand what I'm saying? And even like, I was having a conversation with Bar for Bar earlier just about releasing music. Sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves, but look at it like a diary extract. Like once you put it out, that is kind of, it's like a statement in time. That will be there. 10 years from now, you put it out, it exists. People might get something from that you might not even be intending to project. So we just have to be here and document what we have, because we're greatness. We already know that. So,
yes. There was another question.
Sis, yes.
Okay, so I do a lot of work around reduction of serious youth violence, and especially in Brixton, and drill comes up a lot. And do you feel that drill is a big part of the problem?
Is that directed at me? Yes and no. Yes and no. I think it's a tricky one. I mean, yes, because art reflects culture and culture reflects life. So these young rappers are rapping about their experiences, and unfortunately those experiences are tangible. You can monetize off those experiences, that they can be sold. So the violence in drill is promoted by us as a people, platforms, social media platforms, YouTube especially. The record industry promotes that. It plays into it. So I think we have young people have a responsibility or duty to at least clean up their act if they know that their music has circumstances where people may die or people may be in danger. But at the same time, we need to celebrate who we are, and it's a reality. I'm not one of those guys that likes to hide away, because I grew up in your neighborhood, so I understand what it's like out there. And if you're only exposed to that world, you can only sing or rap about that world you're exposed to. So it's not like, it's a conundrum really. So yes and no, it does have an influence, but the influence has made a lot of our young brothers and sisters multimillionaires. Look where, I can't name anybody, but look where the likes of Stormzy, Dave and whoever, they're able to look after families now and etc.
So mine is a two-part thing there. Now that you said that, do you think, okay, so one, you spoke about it sort of like being exploited by the industry, but do you think some young people then, this is not their experience, but because they're looking at the likes of Dave and Stormzy and seeing all that,
it's infectious. As I said to you earlier, or I said to the room, like, black people, we wear our wealth. So it's a very infectious culture. You could influence someone by saying, boom, boom, bam, 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 bust my ting, bam, 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 you know what I mean? Like, and it's cool, and man ain't been nicked, he ain't done, it's all of these things that not just black people, but young people are influenced by, So it does have an influence. It does, but there's a responsibility, and I think it just takes a wiser person like us, wise people like us, to teach our youth and show our youth that there's other options.
Why do you think that these majors are so heavily invested in the kind of music that produces violence, basically?
Can I just say, I think a lot of people are forgetting the actual word drill. Like, the music come from the answer in the flipping title, like drilling. When man are doing drilling, it's not about drill. Ain't just some music. We'll call that music drill. No, drill is what it's about. So it's like a genre. It's like a gangster movie. In a gangster movie, it's not gonna be Titanic. It's gonna be Scarface. It's gonna be them ones there. Like, so yeah. So I feel you just gotta know what you're getting into. Personally, if my child said he wanted to go and do music now, he didn't grow up on my estate, and he can't talk that I was talking when I was 17, 18 years old, when I lived on New Cross, you know what I mean? So, if he would come out talking that talk, I will check him. So I think it's important that you know what you're getting into. If you want to do drill, understand what it's about. Like, one thing people kind of, like we talked about, where people just jump on the music like, oh yeah, it's cool, it sounds cool. Like you said, you could say anything, make it sound cool, and then everyone and their flipping mums, aunties, cats doing it. Do you see what I mean? So, yeah, I think we can't censor drill, and we can't blame the violence on drill, because drill is about violence. That's what you got to understand first and foremost. Drill is about violence. Whatever they decide to kind of, evolve into, then we'll see. But in the meantime, right now, they talk about what drilling they did last night, and they talk about it on the record. And then that other person will come back and say, yeah, well, we did this to your gang, and check the scoreboard, and rare. It is what it is. It's gangster music.
Well, welcome, Jewel Soul.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shift the vibration.
Evolution.
Definitely.
So, just to
can I just say something about that?
Yeah.
Just kind of emphasizing that point, that drill is that line between life imitating art and art imitating life, right? To realize that this violence is real, and that these young people are experiencing this. This is not just full glamour. This is their expression.
It's almost like distress calls.
Exactly,
right?
And I think that it's important that we don't censor that, because we need to hear these hard truths. And the reality is that a lot of young people are actually growing up experiencing this similar violence, or are in proximity to this violence, right? It's not necessarily that it's being glamorized and they want to participate, sometimes it's inevitable.
Exactly.
Right? And so, I'm sure, if we have our young boys and siblings, the worries that we have putting them out in the world, right? We might bring them up in the best conditions, but, they go to a school in a particular area where they're in a proximity to something.
Yep.
And so I think that the kind of like dismissing of drill or dismissing of the violence in any kind of Black British music history, because it's always been there, is kind of a kind of displaced kind of like concern. The concern is somewhere else. It's not necessarily in the music. And I think that as well, in terms of the glamorizing of drill, even if we don't say this, even if we don't express violence in our music, it's going to be labeled violent. Mm-hmm. We're going to be connected to violence and criminality. So what's the point? Say it if you need to say it, don't say it if you don't want to say it. But, just express yourself, and we can't restrict that expression.
And I'll say this as well, if you weren't profitable, I don't think the labels will do it.
There you go.
There's that.
If you're looking through a conspiracy kind of way as well, but just bottom line business, if you weren't profitable, I don't think the labels will care that much. They'd have switched it long time.
Well, there's profits in prisons as well.
So on a positive, let's end the section on a positive. And so last question, and please keep it short. What do you feel the legacy of Black British music is and will be?
The legacy. It's the bass, isn't it? That's the shortest answer that I can give. It's all about the bass.
I think mine's going to be creativity, really. Just being creative and inventive. Yeah, inventable creativity would be my...
It's a tricky one. I don't know what the answer to that question, But I would say us. It's just us, man. This is the legacy of...
We are the legacy.
Yeah, we are. Just this continuing, this momentum.
The
people,
atmosphere.
the atmosphere, the vibes.
The Black atmosphere.
Finally got there.
Okay, so on that note, can we give a big round of applause to our panelists?